welcome back, loyal fight fans, to Boxing. Eat that shit up. I am your humble host. I am Tummy Tom O'Neill. I am the body snatcher, and I am back at it. You know what's up? Hit the thumbs up button for me. Hit the subscribe button, and please tell a friend. We are fresh off of the Joe Smith Jr. fight. Very fresh off of it. This episode of Boxing is brought to you by Schillings, the greatest beer on the planet right now, for me. Yeah, I thought a lot was made on the broadcast of Joe Smith Jr.'s opponent, who I'm not so familiar with, Geffrard, I believe is how it's pronounced. I thought a lot was made of his boxing ability, though he was recognized as an underdog for this fight due to his amateur experience and whatnot. And I didn't really see it very much, though. Yeah, I thought that, you know, if you're standing there and you just keep a high guard up and you don't move your legs much, I mean, that's not boxing. He had some good counters, but, you know, he used his legs and cut some angles in spots, just in spots of certain rounds throughout the fight. But every single time that he did it, he was able to make Joe Smith Jr., you know, miss and whatnot, which I go, okay, I see that, but I don't really recognize why he just abandoned it then. I don't know why he abandoned a strategy that was working for him. So, you know, I'm a big fan of Guillermo Rigondeaux, for instance. So Rigondeaux, you know, moves his feet a lot. A lot of people don't like him. They think he's a boring fighter. Now, he makes people miss, you know, where you have a bad differential between what you have thrown versus what you've landed. And not just a bad one, but like a half or even worse of thrown versus landed percentage. So that's what, like, Rigondeaux, Lomachenko, they'll do that to opponents and make them miss so much. Then they use their legs. Then they will. That's a strategy, you know, you tend to use as the high guard when you've used some head movement, been kind of slick in there, and then you use your legs and you move around. You know, when you get caught in a corner, or when you're against the ropes and you're going to try to fake this way and angle back out or something, you use the high guard a lot of times. So when people are throwing against your guard, but it's not really landing, the judges really don't score it, and they shouldn't, because it's not landing. It's through your guard. But listen, if you don't use your legs, and you don't use like great head movement, and you don't kind of make a spectacle of it all, and just make people like, damn, and then listen, you get stuck for a minute because they're constantly trying to counter you against the corner, and you just use the high guard and not much lands, like a Mayweather, for instance, as well, you know, that should be scored that way, where not much lands, and look at all the fantastic stuff they're doing in there. But if you just stand there, if you barely move your legs during the fight, even if you're having success, which is just a freakish thing, but if you don't move your legs on, you just kind of stand there and go, oh, and you're backing up, and you just have this high guard where not much is landing, but you're just constantly getting peppered, and hooks are coming in on you, and uppercuts, peppered with the jab, overhand, you know, you're starting rounds off well, you know, like Geffrard did in this fight. I believe he started round 4 or 3, 4, and 5, maybe started even maybe like 7 or something, started really strong, right? And then just fell off a cliff and started eating overhand rights. I don't think I don't know why Tim Bradley was kind of saying a lot about this guy's boxing ability. I mean, I do know because of he has a very good amateur background, right? But yeah, he's won some fights against people I haven't heard of. It's a guy I haven't heard of, but I acknowledge if you say you know what they've said about him on the broadcast. And I'm a guy who watches fights all the time, so if you're new to watching fights, you know, you might kind of get sold on things because they're advertising the fighters on the broadcast, but then you learn like, this is all full of shit. But there's certain things you hear, accolades and such that are impressive to where, hey, listen, even if I still totally believe the guy's gonna lose, I respect that. Or everybody should respect that. That is a good accolade to kind of bullet point. Not everything on the broadcast is full of shit, but that was a big thing to do, is not just, listen to his amateur accolades and such, is more like, look at the boxing ability of this guy, or yeah, I can't believe Joe Smith Jr. is trying to box with this guy instead of bullying. Look, Joe Smith Jr. did bully the hell out of this guy and also outboxed him throughout a lot of this fight. I thought Joe Smith Jr. basically won every round. I'm sitting there, and in boxing matches, really, no matter who I'm going for, listen, I placed some money on Joe Smith Jr. and he won tonight. But, I no matter what, I try to be fair when I'm looking at a fight. Because that's what you should do. Really try to be fair. It's just in your mind. Because listen, they say wins, but you should try to be fair and look at it and respect both guys. And no matter who you like more or whatnot. And so I thought I was trying to almost kind of give Geffrard some of those rounds. I just can't see a way to do that. It's like the only rounds that he started off very good, where you could be like, he could. He literally just ended him taking big shots, mostly overhand rights, in those rounds where he started off with a good pace and used his jab a lot and used a little movement to slip shots and so on. But a lot of the fight, then he just literally resorted to putting his hands up. He said something as well in the corner, to his corner, rather, about, and I couldn't make it out. Yeah, I think the broadcast was weird, but I think Tim Bradley was trying to say something. Credit to him, he was trying to say something, but I couldn't make out what he heard there. But you knew it wasn't good. I even rewinded it, try to hear it again. But you knew it wasn't good when the cornerman said, "Hey, listen, we don't." From his posture, his body, and the way his face looked, saying something, and then his corner just responds like, "Hey, what you mean, man? We don't talk like that. We don't talk like that. You're gonna go out there and beat this guy. We trained a long time for this. You're getting a title opportunity as a replacement, a last-minute replacement. This is something that you say you always dream for. What do we work every day in the gym for? You don't have jobs you're running around doing in life. This is what you dreamed of. This is what you do is boxing." And yeah, I just didn't seem in it. He had a strange demeanor, but I want to touch on this too. So his demeanor, and I've learned this, and you should have learned this as well, that doesn't mean everything. So certain kind of demeanors are a person's character, so on. If it's good or bad, but just kind of their perks or whatnot, right? Their person's demeanor, their characteristics and stuff. You shouldn't read so much into them. So this guy Geffrard, in the weigh-ins, he's very respectful, which you guys know. I mean, great fighters are disrespectful and respectful, really. But he's not just respectful; he's very respectful, and he has a kind of a strange look in his face, and he doesn't really look his opponents in the eyes, right? And he just kind of puts his head down and stuff, and he just doesn't. And he's standing in the weigh-ins like this, Well, listen, Errol Spence Jr., is one of the greatest fighters that is fighting today. Errol Spence Jr. at the very least, number 3 on my overall pound for pound list, honestly. He has that kind of demeanor, really. I mean, he talks in a certain way, but he's respectful enough. He really is respectful enough. Unless somebody's really pushing him, and even then you can just tell he's trying to just be respectful and professional. He is a professional. But in the fight, he's a savage, and then he goes back to the corner, and in between the corner, he kind of has a demeanor on him that's kind of sit there almost like, all right, I'm a little bored, I'm just waiting, I'm gonna look down at the ground, the bell's gonna go, and I'm gonna go out there and do my thing. So you don't really want to read. There's endless, cases I can give for this kind of, and people that I've known personally, you know, on a lesser or trained or thought in a gym scenario or through a friend scenario, I could beat this guy's ass, and just been totally surprised. Listen, is not everybody's and vice versa, and vice versa. Okay, people talk a big game and then they're just nothing. You know, there are people as well that talk a big game and they mean it. And listen, there's people that look like, I could beat them up and maybe you can. And then there's people that look like, oh, I'm judging them in a certain way because they're not looking into their opponent's eyes, or they're looking down at the ground or whatnot. Or they're just kind of friendliness outside of the ring and whatnot, that you can judge a lot from there. You really can't. So I didn't. So a lot of people kind of commented on this, of the Geffrard and the way he's in and in between the rounds, you know, but listen, he kind of showed that he wasn't gonna be in there. I mean, he kind of just had this demeanor, then he went, so what made it weird for me is you can have this, like I said, there's nothing wrong, dude. People are all very unique. And some people will beat your ass, and that doesn't always mean that they got to be disrespectful or curse at you a lot or you know, psych you out or something. They could be very sweet people, and if they train a lot and they're just good fighters, they learn good technique, they work out hard, they could beat your ass, you know, and beat my ass. And then there's people though that, you know, really that does show through. It's just, life's weird and people are weird. The human mind is very strange. So you can't judge a book by its cover. That's a very true statement. You can't judge a book by its cover. But yeah, Geffrard just didn't seem like he was in this thing, because he was looking down, he was doing these things, and I thought, that doesn't mean much, you know? That could just be his demeanor, and he's a good but listen, he could have trained, he would come out here and shock people. I mean, last year was chock full of unreal underdog victories, you know, and this was the first fight of the year that I gambled on, and we got this one in betting for Joe Smith Jr. But Geffrard kind of showing himself that in the fight, what you do matters. It's not how you look and what, but when you combine how he looks and you say those things, listen, it doesn't matter. We have to see what they do, and what he did showed that maybe that's not all off, though, you know, because he didn't just get broken down by a better fight. He wasn't really, listen, I mean, his corner threw in the towel because he's saying stuff to his corner. You're on a live broadcast. He showed it on ESPN Plus. He's saying stuff to his corner, something about, I don't want to go on, or I can't beat this guy or something. And the corner's like, you know, we don't talk like that. What the hell are you talking about? And then he, you know, proceed, because I thought he lost every round, but he had some moments in these rounds, in the mid rounds, where he started like 3 off or something in a row. The starts of the round started off well, using his jab, pressing Joe Smith Jr. And then it's just done. Eating overhand rights. You know, Joe Smith able to just pepper him with the jabs, straight uppercuts, you know, go to the body on him. He had a couple good liver shots with that left hook to the body, and just kind of, you know, but it wasn't like, oh, he just broke him down, because that's what Joe Smith Jr. can do. And I believe, you know, he would have done. But the way this fight ended was the corner thrown in the towel when he goes down, takes a knee, and it wasn't to a body shot, and he wasn't knocked out. So when you get hit to the body, sometimes it's smart, you know, Rosado talked about, sometimes it's smart to go to your knee for a second if you need. But a lot of fighters, that's a veteran kind of a thing for him to say. Rosado, who is a veteran, Gabriel Rosado, the Puerto Rican Rocky. But a lot of people don't even like to do that, because you have pride as a fighter, right? And you don't want to show that, but sometimes you need to. Sometimes you get dropped to the body. And then that's why I'm the body snatcher, because I love the body shots, because the body shots are where your pride's still intact in your mind, and your mind is still telling you that I want to destroy this guy. I can't lose. I don't lose to this guy. Your mind isn't clicked off and you're knocked out because you got hit in the head. Your mind is totally still there, and your body and your liver, your stomach is hurting, and you go, I'm still gonna stand, and then your legs just give out under you, and your whole body starts shutting, like feeling like it's shutting down, and you just go, and you're just cramping viciously from not body shots, but the liver shot, the left hook to the liver, and it just does that. But you know, you got this guy crumbling down onto one knee off of half block pepper jabs, and he kind of just almost quits to go down, really.